Hey, this is Sanjay Jenkins with Replo, the landing page solution for Shopify designed to help you increase your conversion rates and build better customer experiences, stuff that you would not be able to do on Shopify alone. We are here to give you, the direct-to-consumer community, e-commerce 101. We're taking it down to the basics. We wanted to build a resource for the community that could take someone who's never heard of e-commerce before and allow them to go from 0 to 1. We also wanted to extend content out to people who are already in the trenches, people already building and scaling DTC brands, and give you all something that can help you take your games to the next level. That's what this is. This right here is the start of Replo pouring back into the community that we serve. We are so humbled to be in this position, and we cannot wait to take you through e-commerce 101. Let's get into it. We want to take it back to the basics. We want to go all the way back to defining what everything means and why we're even here. So we'll ask the question, what is e-commerce? E-commerce, very simply, is using the internet to sell stuff, whether it's a digital product or a physical good. It's building a website that then helps people buy things, it's the game of commerce over the internet. More specifically for this course, let's ask the question, what is DTC? DTC, or direct-to-consumer, is the process of skipping any third-party retailers, the middlemen, and selling directly to the customer. Customer comes to your website, they make a purchase. They're not interacting with an Amazon or a Walmart.com. They're buying directly from you. And that is the name of the game here. What we're trying to do here is show you how to get into e-commerce, but specifically getting into a direct-to-consumer brand. Now, there's some pros and cons to DTC, and we'll go into that. But that is the core of the definition. Now, let's go into the pros of starting a DTC brand, a direct-to-consumer brand. One of the big things that came out over the last 10 years is the idea that you're cutting out the middleman. And that's very much the case. So in e-commerce before and in just retail in general, the middlemen were the retailers. Think of your Amazons, your Targets, your Home Depots. You've got these brands that make a product. They sell that product wholesale to the retailers, and then the product is then sold at the retail location to the customer. In DTC, you get to cut that retailer piece out. You go straight to the customer. You own the relationship with the customer. You own all of the data that comes with it as well. These are data points like the emails, the phone numbers, the amount of purchases someone makes, the types of purchases that they're making. You're able to collect and keep and refine the data directly versus all that data going to a third-party retailer. So again, you're cutting out the middleman. You get all of this you get to build the relationship directly with the customer. And you also, you have this data that you can use for a variety of things. Now let's go into some of the cons of DTC. It's very common to hear that DTC is quote unquote easy. And while it is simple, it is not easy. It is a lot of work in a variety of different ways. One of the first things to know about running a DTC brand, like from start to scale, is that these are very capital intensive businesses. You have to pour in a lot of money, and you don't need to start with a lot, but over time, you have to continually reinvest into your business to keep generating profits. And that's just the nature of physical product businesses and building a brand in that case. Another thing to think about is when DTC really picked up over the last 10, 15 years, it was very common for people to say, okay, we're cutting out the middleman. And back in the day, the middleman was your retailers, right? Your Targets, your Walmarts, so on and so forth. Now there is a new middleman, and that is whatever ad platform you're using to acquire customers. You don't have to run ads to get customers, but more often than not, the most reliable path to scale, especially when you're starting out, getting your initial traction is running ads. So like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, running ads on channels like Meta, Facebook, Instagram, super, super cheap. Ad costs have matured. They will always go up. This is the nature of the game. And for many businesses, if they don't have a good gross margin structure, for example, it's just really hard to make your business work mathematically and economically because you're paying the middleman that is Mark Zuckerberg. We like to joke about it. We call it the Zuck tax. Part of it is just the cost of doing business, but that is something to be aware of. Another thing to think about is the complexity of what DTC can be. You are responsible for your own tech stack. A tech stack is your website, your email marketing tools, any of the apps that go in to support that. And we'll go into more detail later, but you are responsible for that. So you have to maintain it. You have to make sure everything's working well. You have to put the whole thing together. It's just another aspect of responsibility that you have to carry. You also have to be, at the end of the day, if a customer doesn't like the product, they're coming after you, or they're going to you. They, in a retail situation, they're able to go back into the store that they bought the product from, say, hey, like complain, and then they're gonna, the customer's interacting with this middleman, whereas now they're interacting directly with you. So the responsibility again lies with you primarily. But again, this is one of those beautiful things about DTC. You own the relationship with the customer. So if you invest heavily, and this is just an energy thing, it's not really tied to money, but it's an energy thing. If you invest heavily in creating amazing products and beautiful customer experiences and doing everything that you can do to serve your customers well, then that responsibility is going to be one of the best things you could ever take. So it might be a con. It's just one of those things to watch out for. But when you do it well, it's actually a superpower. Now let's get into metrics. This is the language of DTC. We love our acronyms and we get a little carried away sometimes, but if you can understand the foundational metrics for DTC, then you're able to go into any conversation, you're able to pick up any piece of learning or tip that's being shared publicly and absorb it a lot faster, and then you're able to build your business with the right context. One of the notes that we'll make now, and we'll say this a lot throughout this, is that these metrics are meaningless without context. These are all just position indicators. They tell you how you're doing, but you have to know how to look at this data in relation to the rest of your business. So we're going to go through the metrics now, and later on in the course, we're going to go into how they all fit together. The first metric that we want to talk about is AOV, average order value. Pretty simple, right? Take the total spend divided by how many customers you have gives you the AOV. This is a useful metric to kind of give you a sense of kind of where your business is. This will help you set some of your customer acquisition cost targets. But this is one of the North Star metrics as you start building out the economic foundation of your business. The next metric that we want to talk about is CVR, conversion rate. This is very simply how many people hit your website or a specific page on your website. That's a landing page built on Replo. And then out of those total number of people that visited that page, how many people checked out at a given time period or added to cart in a given time period. You can look at your conversion rates across multiple time periods, and you can look at your conversion rates across multiple actions as well. And actions can be defined as, again, purchase, but it could be add to cart. It could be your conversion rate from someone seeing your ad and then actually going to the page. There are a lot of different ways that conversion rate is used, but this is one of the core pieces of navigating a digital business. The next metric that we're going to talk about is CTR, click-through rate. Now, this is going back to the ad example. If you have an ad and you want to know out of all the people that saw the ad, what's that percentage that actually went to your landing page? This is the metric that's going to give you that. You're also going to be able to see if you have links within an email, like an email marketing blast, for example, what that click-through rate is from them seeing that thing and then actually going to wherever you're trying to send them. It's very similar to conversion rate, but it's just another kind of contextual metric at different parts of your funnel. Now we're going to talk about doing two different metrics that actually kind of mean the same thing. Basically saying the same thing in two different ways. So you can say CPA, or cost per acquisition, or CAC, CAC, customer acquisition cost. Ultimately, what this metric is just the dollar value of how much it costs for you to get an order or how much it costs for you to get a customer. This metric alone is nice to have, but it's, again, meaningless without context. If you sell $1,000 thing and you have a customer acquisition cost of $500, that might, that's not bad. Like you still have contribution margin, which we'll get to later in the course. You still have like $500 to play with that you can spend on overhead and cost of goods sold and all those sorts of things. But if you have a $500 CAC or a $500 CPA, but you sell a $10 thing, well, you've just spent $500 to make 10. You're kind of in the hole there. So that's why it's very important to look at these metrics within the context of how much money you're bringing in now, how much money you're bringing in over time. Now we're going to talk about one of the favorite metrics of media buyers. Media buyers are simply people that run ads. Return on ad spend, ROAS. You're going to hear ROAS thrown out all the time in this industry. And it's very simply how much money you make relative to how much money you spent on ads. Over a given time period, you can segment it out by channel. For example, you can look at how much money was spent on Facebook specifically versus Instagram. So you're looking at channel-specific ROAS. You can compare that to your TikTok ROAS. And again, this is a metric that's measured over time. Marketing efficiency ratio is very similar to ROAS. Again, it's basically how many dollars you're bringing in relative to how much you spent. You can break it up by channel again. And and you can also display this as a percentage, which you can with ROAS. Most people don't. But again, it just gives you a sense of how well your advertising is doing in a particular channel over a particular time period. Setting these metrics, setting these targets, it's an art and a science. There's some educated guesses that happen at the beginning. Once you get some data, you can make some better improvements. But again, these are all just measures on how well you're doing on the marketing. And lastly, let's talk about the fan favorite, the big hitter, LTV or CLTV, customer lifetime value. The best way to think about this is how much money a particular customer is going to spend over the course of their entire life with your brand. So maybe you get a customer and they stick around for 10 years. So you're going to look at all the dollars that they spent over the course of 10 years. Maybe you have a brand where they just buy the product one time. So your customer lifetime value is much shorter. You're measuring over a shorter period of time. And you have to think about how much you can spend to acquire a customer if you know that you're only going to get money from them once. Again, this is a dollar amount, but it's also a function of time. That's one of these things you're going to see a lot, is that it's not just a dollar or a percentage. It's all relative to the time period that you're measuring. Customer lifetime value is something that is usually matched up against your CPA or your CAC, right? One of the things you're going to hear a lot is your CAC to LTV ratio or your LTV to CAC, right? Just kind of flipping the numerator and the denominator there. And ultimately, it gives you a measure of how efficient and effective your marketing is, your business, and overall your business. This is an efficiency of your business as a whole. When you're acquiring new customers, for example, if you know that they are going to spend $1,000 over the course of their life, maybe you can go in the hole in acquiring them relative to the first purchase. Let's say over the course of 12 months, they're going to spend $1,000. They make a purchase every single month. The purchase that they make in month one is maybe they only spend $50 in month one. And you paid $150. Well, if you just looked at it in that first month, you're like, I'm in the hole. But if you actually expand if you know, okay, I'm going to take the hit on month one, but in month two, they're going to spend $250. In month 5, they're going to spend $550. And over the course of 12 months, they spend that $1,000. Then maybe you can structure your business to where you can afford to pay the hit. Now, in a perfect world, you are profitable on the first purchase. It is still possible. We're recording this in 2023. It's still possible for you to do. But again, LTV, customer lifetime value, it's a great metric to have. gives you a sense of how much people spend with your business overall. But it's really, really valuable when you match it up, when you start to measure it against how much you are paying to acquire a customer. So that is our overview on the high-level metrics. We'll go into a deeper discussion later in the course. We wanted to give you a little quick primer before we continue. Let's quickly talk about who this course is for. This is, as we said in the introduction, a course for people who are trying to go from 0 to 1, people who have no idea what e-commerce is, and to give you a sense of, hey, here's everything you need to know to get started. And then once you get started, there's gonna be a lot more stuff you're gonna learn, but we're gonna give you the tools today to get started. If you are already running an e-commerce brand, you can also derive value from this. If you're already running a DTC shop, you can also derive value from this, because we're gonna try to give you a few nuggets that can help you go strengthen your ground game, maybe some tools that you didn't know before. There is value to be had for everyone. And again, this is the first of many. We're gonna continue to flesh out the content here so we can grow with you and help you grow at every part of your own journey. One of the common questions that we get whenever we start talking about stuff like this, as it relates to direct to consumer, DTC stuff, is what about drop shipping? You know, a lot of people hear e-commerce, get started on Shopify. Oh, I got to set up a drop shipping store. That's actually out of the scope of this course. We're not a drop shipping course. We are talking about starting a direct to consumer brand. Now, there's nothing wrong with drop shipping. Our tool Replo helps drop shippers worldwide build high converting landing pages that boost their conversion rates, increase their customer lifetime value, etc. But the purpose of this course specifically is to give you the ability to start a direct-to-consumer brand, something that has where you have your own products manufactured, whether you make them yourselves, you hire a manufacturing facility, however you do it, but you are fulfilling the product directly. It's not a product that someone else makes that you are just delivering. So that is our take on dropshipping. Again, amazing way to create economic value and get into the e-commerce game. A lot of people who start brands started out in dropshipping. It's a great way to learn how to run ads. But again, it's out of the scope of this course. So with that being said, I hope you're ready to scale. We are stoked for everything that you're about to experience here. This project we've been working on for quite some time to give people all the tools they need to get started. And ultimately, the goal is to get you to scale to the moon. It's gonna sound cheesy, it's gonna sound weird, but we know you can do it. Anybody can get into e-commerce with next to nothing and create transformational brands that change the world, brands that impact the lives of millions of people worldwide. And that's what we aim to do today. I hope you're ready to go. We're ready to go. Let's get started.